Okay, long wordy question, but as always, we've got to make sure that we're not just saying why is one right, but why are the others wrong, and that's proper learning. So we're looking for an association between the number of moths and that are caught in the moth trap and the trap type. Now let's have a look at some of these answers. So in A, it's talking about most of the light traps, which is this one, contain less than 250 moths. Well, that's not comparing trap types, is it? So it can't be A. B says 15% of the scent traps contained 500 or more moths. Sounds a bit more mathy because we've got the 15%, but again, we're only talking about scent traps. That's only one type of trap, so no good. C, the percentage of sugar traps containing more than 500 moths is greater than the percentage of scent traps containing less than 500 moths. Now that looks good because you've got sugar traps and scent traps, but this one is talking about more than 500 moths and this is talking about less than 500 moths. So it's not comparing the same statistic. So we need to be comparing traps, but with the same statistic. Okay, because you can see we've got this black up here, which is the more than 500, but then the white part here, which is less than, well, the white and grey is just less than 500. It's not C. D, 20% of sugar traps contained more than 500 and 50% of light traps contained less than 250 moths. Again, not comparing like with like because we got the more than 500 and the less than 250. Looks better, but it isn't the right thing. If you look at E, it says 20% of sugar traps contained more than 500 moths, while 10% of light traps contained more than 500 moths. So we've got two traps talked about and the same statistic. So the answer must be E. Okay, so we're looking at the variables number of moths and trap type, and let's just think straight away, what do we think the category, the type of data we're looking at is? And if we look at this, we can see we've got less than 250, 250 to 500, more than 500. Looks like numbers, but not, because it's just three groups and there is an order to them. So we can immediately remove A because we can see that the variable number of moths is ordinal. But if we look at trap type, we got sugar, scent, and light. They're just nominal. They're just names. There's no logical order to them. In fact, if you look at the graph, they're not even in, well, they're in reverse alphabetical. So they're not both ordinal. And again, probably a lot of people fell into the trap of thinking it was numerical because you saw numbers, but that doesn't mean that. So we can rule out that one because it's not numerical. Let's go to the next one. Nominal. Well, we said no, it's actually ordinal, the first one, and nominal, the second one. So that rules out D. Must be E. All right, a little bit of a confession time here because I fell into a trap with this one, and I was thinking, oh, how could they possibly get this wrong? Here is a classic trick that they play on people. Have a look here. That is the key to the whole question. It doesn't, the x does not stop at 0. So you might get fooled into thinking, oh, the y-intercept is 17.4, but it's not, because it doesn't cross at 0. Remember, the y-intercept is when x equals 0. That immediately rules out any of these 17.4 dudes. So, straightforward. Now you have to just think y equals mx plus c, and wherever letters you've been taught, the y is wrist. So it's got to be wrist first, so it must be B. Straightforward. But I do recommend pay attention to this thing. Especially, you might get sort of sucked in because, look, all three of them were 17.4, and sometimes you kind of like to go, three of them look similar, therefore it must be in that group, and the other two might be wrong. Not always the case, as you can see. So pay attention to that and be aware of that trick. It is a common trick that they love to play on students. Pay attention. I got sucked in. Okay, so we're looking at residuals here. Now residuals are the distances from this line. So we've got some that are exactly on the line, we've got a little bit below, a lot below, a bit above, and then like this. So above is positive and below is negative, okay? And it says here we're looking at 24 centimeters. So if we go look at the 24 centimeter one, which is this one here, we can see that we're dropping down, so it's negative because it's on the bottom side. And if you look at it, look, straight away you can see what's the size of that. You don't have to do a long time measuring to go, that is more than a half. Okay, so look, think about this. That's about half there, and that's about a half there. It's almost close to 1. Almost close to 1 must be A. So don't spend a long time sort of double checking and calculating these things. If it was 0.4, it'd be a much shorter. It'd be about there, wouldn't it? So, and definitely not minus 0.1. So just pay attention to that. Look at the simplicity of it. Remember your fact, below is negative, above is positive, and it's just the length of that line connecting straight up and down, not in an angle, straight up and down. Okay, now this is another badly answered question. So some people are not really doing well on residuals. So if you focus your study on residuals, you might actually really boost your score. And the last few questions I've been doing, there's been a bit of problems with students getting sucked in by classic mistakes, but they're obviously guessing. So like when you see like 50% of people are getting this question right, and then the other answers are spread around, that tells people just going, oh, hit and hope. So this is a really good question to sort of get your head around and not get freaked out by all the wording. The real key to this whole question is right here. It says standardized value. What does standardized value tell you? What does that tell you? It tells you Z-score. So as soon as you see those keywords standardized value, you know it's Z. And Z equals X minus X bar over the SX. Well, they've given you some values. Now, they're trying to be cute and talk about residual and stuff like that, but that's just trying to word you and freak you out. It's actually minus 0.3, which is this one. That's our mean. And then we've got minus the mean, which is X bar, 0.02, and then we divide by the standard deviation. That's our SX of 0.4. If you stick all that into your calculator, you get minus 0.8. Therefore, the answer is A. Good question to have a look at. Standardized value, don't get freaked out because they're talking about standardized value of the residual. That kind of like, but really, I mean, standardized value, you've got the formula, you've got the 3 values, stick them in, you'll be fine.